Stocks closed mixed on Wall Street. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq snapped three-day losing streak as Nvidia rebounds. The Dow Jones Index closes with losses. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific trade mixed following cues from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty suggesting a lower start for the Indian market. Crude prices remain range-bound with Brent around $85 a barrel. Gold too remains range-bound around $2,300 an ounce. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that Sanghi Industries promoters have launched an OFS looking to sell about 3.5% stake in the company at 90 rupees a share. The promoter of CE Infosystems is also likely to sell about 0.9% equity in the company at about a 5% discount to yesterday's closing price. The Congress party appoints Rahul Gandhi to be the leader of the opposition in the 18th Lok Sabha. The race for the speaker heads to a vote for the first time in over 50 years, with members of the House set to choose between NDA's Om Birla or India Alliance candidate K. Suresh to lead the 18th Lok Sabha. Good morning in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Sonal Bhutra. You're watching Power Breakfast. Those are the top headlines that we are tracking for you. But as always, let's first take a look at what the Asian markets are doing. Largely mixed, you have to say today. Again, that's the picture with the Asian markets. While the Hang Seng is in the red right now, 42 points lower there. The Taiwanese index is up 135 points. The other indices, the likes of Nikkei, doing well in trade today. We also have the Kospi, which is sitting with gains of around 0.2%. But we have something like a Shanghai, which is in the red, down 0.4%. And GIFT Nifty, that will come up for you on the screen because that's the one which will indicate the way Indian markets will move. The GIFT Nifty here, 21 points lower right now. So that could indicate that the start could be slightly in the negative, or it could be a muted to flat start for our own markets. That's what's happening in the Asian markets today. But let's talk about the US markets because Wall Street ended mixed for a third session but saw a comeback in the chip sector. The Nasdaq Composite snapped a three-day slide, gaining 220 points in the back of Nvidia's rebounds from the week's earlier losses, while the Dow Jones shed close to 300 points after heavyweights Boeing, Home Depot and Goldman Sachs all declined. The S&P 500 also gained after three sessions of sell-off. CNBC's Kate Rogers gets a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
In this afternoon, shares soaring up more than 40%. That's on news that Volkswagen plans to invest up to $5 billion in the electric vehicle startup, starting with an initial investment of $1 billion. The additional $4 billion expected by 2026. It includes plans for $1 billion each in 2025 and 2026, followed by $2 billion in 2026 related to an expected joint venture to create electrical architecture and software technology. That's according to a release by the two automakers on this Tuesday. FedEx reported fourth quarter earnings that topped Wall Street expectations with adjusted EPS of $5.41 per share compared to an estimate of $5.34, revenue of $21.1 billion, right in line with estimates from analysts. For the full year 2025, FedEx sees adjusted earnings per share in a range of $20 to $22 versus an expectation of $20.85. For revenue, the company expects low to mid-single-digit % growth year on year. It also said it plans to repurchase up to $2.5 billion worth of shares in fiscal 2025, and the stock climbed about 15% on that news. Carnival shares added more than 8% after the cruise company posted a second quarter earnings and revenue beat, reporting profit of 11 cents per share on revenue of $5.78 billion. Analysts were expecting a loss of 2 cents per share on revenue of $5.68 billion. Carnival also offered strong third quarter and full year outlooks. And finally, shares of SolarEdge tumbling about 20% following the announcement that it'll offer $300 million worth of convertible notes due 2029. The company also revealed in a U.S. SEC filing on Monday that a customer won't be able to pay about $11.4 million that it owes after filing for bankruptcy.
Okay, all right, that's the U.S. market action. And former PIMCO CEO and Alliance Chief Economic Advisor Mohammad Al-Arian is of the opinion that Federal Reserve is overly cautious and is afraid to take a call on a rate cut.
You had disagreement about what's happening to inflation dynamics. You had disagreement about the growth dynamic. You even had disagreement about the impact of lower interest rates. We're living in this very uncertain world. If you look at the tails of the distribution, which you worry about in an uncertain world, they're heavily tilted in terms of the economy slowing much faster than people expect. In such a world, if you want to deliver a soft landing, you've got to start cutting sooner rather than later and not go too far in cutting. So the most likely mistake right now, the most likely policy mistake, is a Fed that got shaken by two pretty bad calls in the last few years will end up being overly cautious and will end up not helping to preempt what could be a significant slowdown. I have two views. One is I think this economy is slowing much faster, and in particular, the household sector no longer has excessive savings, no longer has much debt capacity. This is not about a K-shaped economy. This is about an economy that no longer has buffers. So if the Fed gets the labor market wrong, we are going to have a much faster slowdown than they can even imagine. So that's the first issue. The second issue, which is much more controversial, is that I don't think 2% is the right target. I think, in fact, if they pursue 2%, they'll run an over-tight monetary policy, and they'll end up sacrificing the second part of their mandate. This is an economy whose underlying equilibrium inflation rate is higher than 2%. It's closer to 3%.
Okay, well, let's move on. Tuesday was a subdued trade or day of trade for European equities. The French CAC slipped about 45 points. The German DAX lost over 145 points, while the British FTSE closed with losses of about 34 points. Shares of Europe's largest aerospace group, Airbus, tumbled over 9% after the company cut its targets for 2024. Separately, ahead of the French parliamentary elections on Sunday, the operator of the Paris Stock Exchange said that the prospect of politically extreme party with little or no government experience reaching power is worrying investors. Meanwhile, shares of Danish pharma giant Novo Nordisk hit a record high after the company said their weight loss drug Wegovy had been approved in China. Okay, all right, that's all the global market action and opinion. But how will these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have our research team joining in to tell you just that. What is the trade setup looking like, the stocks that will be in the news, and the action from the F&O space as well. Hey guys, a very good morning to all of you. Hormaz, let me come across to you first up. What is the market setup looking like today?
The setup is pointing towards a subdued start, but then that should not come as a surprise considering the move that we have seen over the last two trading sessions. Now, if you compare Monday's low and Tuesday's high, the Nifty is up exactly 400 points from the lows of Monday, and if you take that high from Tuesday. But that also is led by one sector, and that is banks, and the banking stocks are the ones that are leading the Nifty higher. The Nifty was up around 180 points yesterday, and almost 75% of that came from just three stocks, which was HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank and Axis Bank. The top three contributors to the Nifty. Reliance and L&T also put their hand up in yesterday's trading session in taking the Nifty higher. But it is the Nifty Bank that has been the star of the show last week, and it is continuing from where it left off there as well. Now, from the June 4 lows, which were around levels of 46,000, the index is already up 6,500 points in just 15 trading sessions, including that one as well. So the Nifty Bank is scaling newer peaks, now well over the mark of 52,500. So 53,000 now becomes the next level to watch. But that may also be because of the fact that institutional flows are returning to the market, specifically the foreign institutional flows. The FPIs were net buyers of Indian equities for the 12th trading session yesterday, and that is the longest buying streak for FPI since the June of 2023. And since the 7th of June, they've bought equities worth over $3.7 billion. And that could also be a reason why the banks are moving higher, and subsequently the Nifty as well. But aside of the banks, the rest of the market was pretty much sulking in yesterday's trading session. There was a bit of pressure in the broader market, some profit booking in the mid-cap space. Realty index saw a bit of a sell-off as well, as did the metal stocks, which also witnessed some profit booking. Today, Wednesday, being the monthly expiry for the Nifty Bank, there's also HAL's board meet to consider a dividend, Inox Green's board meet to consider fundraising, and of course the Spectrum auctions continue for the second day. There's no clear handover from the US markets as well, because all depends on how Nvidia does, and that is when the markets move there. But the GIFT Nifty is pointing towards a slightly subdued start for our own markets.
Oh yes, it is. So there could be some muted movement that we could see today, but thank you so much, Hormaz, for that. Now over to Abhishek, who will list out the stocks to watch out for in today's trading session.
Well, to begin with, Sanghvi Industries promoter Ambuja Cement and Ravi Sanghi to sell about 3.5% stake in the company. Ambuja Cement will offload about 2.36% and Ravi will offload about 1.16%. The floor price that's been kept over there is ₹90 per share. There have been resignations, so M&M Finance has seen their CFO resign, who will leave the post in October 2024. Ratan India, their CEO, has placed resignation with immediate effect. Now, sources on C Info System, the promoter Rakesh Kumar is looking to offload a part of his stake, that is about 0.9%, which is valued at about 114.6 crores. Ultratech Cement UAE arm, they have revised the buy offer in Ras Al Khaimah to 25% from 31% that they had earlier applied for. In terms of Z Entertainment, the NCLT has allowed the withdrawal of implementation application of composite scheme of arrangement that they had with Sony. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Those are some stocks on our radar today. Finally, let me go across to Manglam. He's joining with all the cues from the F&O space. Hey, Manglam.
Good morning. So, the Nifty was in a trading range for the last few trading sessions, and yesterday it broke out of that range. In fact, it broke out of that 23,350 to 23,700 sort of range, conquered the 23,700 mark intraday and closed above that as well. So that was an important one. Additionally, it was led by, the weekly options expiry. If you just take a look at both the financial services index as well as the Nifty Bank, you would realize that both of them ended at the high point of trade, and that's exactly what led the market higher as well. The Nifty Bank was the biggest contributor. In fact, if you look at the Nifty Bank, that led the overall rally in the market. Top contributors, of course, were the top private sector banks, HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank. And that is an important sector to watch out for today as well, because it is the Nifty Bank June series expiry. It's a Wednesday. No problems for the cash market. The FI has bought about 1,200 crores, and that is understandable, largely because the private sector banks doing extremely well. But the bigger purchase was in index futures, almost 2,700 crores. We've been talking about how FIs have been increasing their long exposure left, right and center, and this one was an addition to that. 47,000 long contracts added, and with this their long exposure now stands at 61% and net long stand at 1,40,000 contracts. Where does the market go from here? Because tomorrow is the monthly expiry. 23,750 call writers are active for a premium of 90 rupees, telling you that, levels upwards of 23,800 may face some sort of congestion. But the important part is, with the market breaking out yesterday, we are seeing supports move higher as well. 23,700 put writers active for a premium of 80 rupees, 23,600 put writers active for 55 rupees. So the base for the market from 23,350 to 23,400 has moved to 23,500 to 23,600 itself. For the Nifty Bank, there are supports at lower levels. 52,500 put extremely active, just about 100 points from where it is right now, and on the way up 53,000 is where all the room is up to. Keep an eye out on a bunch of stocks, a lot of them getting out of F&O ban on expiry week. So we have Balrampur Chini, Chambal Fertilizers, Granules and Piramal, all of them in focus on account of getting out of F&O ban.
Okay, all right. So that is the F&O setup. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us and prepping us up for this trading day ahead. We'll slip into a break. Up next, RBI Governor says that the central bank is confident of achieving 7.2% growth this year. More on this when we return. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Well, the RBI is confident of achieving 7.2% growth for the current year, says RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das. Addressing the 188th Annual General Meeting of Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Mumbai, he spoke about India's growth trajectory and the central bank's main focus moving forward. Listen in.
We are confident about the 7.2% growth for the current year. Of course, in any projection, in any forecast, there would be always risks to the upside and risks to the downside. What is for real today is that global growth is improving, but at a slower pace. Rural consumption, which was lagging behind for a long time, has picked up. The sales of FMCG goods in the FMCG sales volumes have increased in the rural sector. What India has been experiencing and what India needs in the future is a growth that is driven by multiple sectors. A country of 140 crores, a country which is now the 5th largest economy, aspiring to become the 3rd largest economy, a country which has aspirations of becoming an advanced economy when we reach 100 years since our independence. A large country like this cannot depend on a single sector, whether manufacturing or services or export-led growth or whatever. It has to be a multiple sector driven growth story for India. we are completely focused on, as a central bank, we focus on price stability, we focus on controlling inflation because it is in the interest of long-term growth.
Okay, that is the word coming in from the RBI governor. But let's move on. Pulse, onion and tomato prices have surged following a record heat wave in the country. The centre has imposed stock limits to keep the rise in prices of pulses in check. The government has bought over 70,000 tons of buffer onion stock and expects prices to stabilize as the monsoon progresses. My colleague Sandhya was at the APMC market in Pune to get us the ground report on soaring vegetable prices. Take a look.
So the tomato price has reached the mark of rupees 100 per kg in multiple parts of the country, especially the southern states. So what exactly is leading to this? First of all, the annual monsoon factor is in the play here. But other than that, this year, the summer crop of tomatoes got destroyed because of intense and excessive heat. And that has led to an imbalance in the demand-supply chain, which has led to this spike in tomato prices. Now, what happens every year is monsoon factor, which usually leads to a price hike during this time of the year. The fresh monsoon crop of tomatoes, the moment it hits the market, that leads to cooling down of these prices. But this year, because of the delay in monsoon's progression, this delay has led to a delay in the sowing of kharif crops, including tomatoes. That means that the monsoon crop, which was all set to hit the market towards the end of July, is going to take some time, which means that the much needed respite in the price of tomato is going to take some time. It's going to further delayed, and the worrisome factor is that the prices could increase further.
Okay, and Sandhya also spoke to a few tomato farmers who described their plight given the difficult conditions they are facing. Listen in.
क्या हुआ अभी वो हीट की वजह से कुछ माल कम निकल रहा है, कितना भी बाजार बढ़ गया तो कुछ वो भांडवल बहुत लगता है, कॉस्ट बहुत लगती है, इसलिए कुछ फायदा नहीं होता है. 1000 के आगे जाएगा तो भी इससे खेत सब फार्मर को कुछ नहीं मिलता है, हाथ में मिलता है, मजदूरी बढ़ती है, भाड़ा लगता है.
हर साल 2-4 लाख होती है, मगर इस साल में धूप के वजह से, बारिश के वजह से बहुत कम हुआ है. 1 लाख भी नहीं हुआ है. सब खेती वालों को ये टमाटर माने ये हुआ है, नुकसान हो गए.
आज 950 रुपए क्रेट गया है, पर लेकिन इस साल में तेज पकड़ा है, लेकिन तेज
50 रुपए किलो गया होगा.
हाँ, 50 रुपए केजी टमाटर गया है, पर लेकिन उतना उसको किसान को प्रोडक्शन हो रहा नहीं है. उस हिसाब से हर साल टमाटर का 1 एकड़ जो खेत होता है उसमें 800-900 हज़ार पूरा सीजन में जाता है एकड़ के हिसाब से, लेकिन ये साल में 200 क्रेट भी नहीं जाएगा, क्योंकि ये धूप के टेम्परेचर की वजह से फसल इतनी खास नहीं है.
मतलब
तो
दाम
ये 1000 रुपए क्रेट है, पर कुछ मतलब नहीं है. 3000-4000 तक क्रेट जाएगा तो किसान को कुछ तो उसका नुकसान, अब जो एक्सपेंसेस हुआ है वो निकल जाएगा.
Okay, the prices have surged of vegetables and pulses. We'll keep getting you more updates on this developing story. For now, we'll slip into a break. Up next, we get you all the cues from the commodities market, so stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast. We spoke about a whole host of things. Let's focus on the commodity space. Manisha Gupta is joining us with the update. Hey, Manisha, good morning.
Morning, Sanal. Thank you for that. I'll start with gold and silver because the sharpest of declines have come in for these. So while the gold prices fell a percentage point overnight, but the silver prices have seen a 2% decline. With this, we are down more than 3% on week. So while silver did make an all-time high of 96,000 rupees a kg in the Indian market, it's trading at around 86,000 right now. So we have seen a sharp decline come in for this one. This is on the back of US dollar index, which has gained up to a 2-month high. There also is an uptick in the treasury yield, and the markets are now waiting for the US GDP numbers that come in tomorrow and the US inflation data that comes in on Friday. So ahead of that, there is some choppiness continuing. In the industrial metals as a sector as well, we've seen profit taking coming in. So copper prices are trading at a 9-week lows. You have a 2-month lows continuing in case of iron ore and aluminum prices. And the HRC steel prices now have declined to a 17-month lows. Profit taking is what is continued for the crude oil prices also. Here as well, the markets are anticipating an increase in the U.S. inventories in the last 1 week, and that has weighed on. In any case, the supply disruption concerns due to geopolitics have kept the prices supported, but the markets have seen some profit-taking coming in on the higher side. So while we were trading at above $86 yesterday, we are barely holding 85 for the Brent prices right now. So it's a cross profit-taking is how Asian markets have opened today, and this is on the back of strength in U.S. dollar index, which is trading much higher, above 105.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much, Manisha, for joining us with all that updates. So that's what's happening in the commodity markets for today. Some profit booking across the board. Let's move on now. No relief for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal after a Delhi High Court has stayed a trial court order granting bail. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear the case today. Kejriwal has been accused in a case about the Delhi government's excise policy. Ashmit Kumar filed this report last evening.
Well, the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal suffering a fresh setback, this time at the hands of the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court saying that the trial court order which granted bail to him is indeed perverse and that it should be stayed. That's the broad rationale, that's the broad takeaway from the Delhi High Court order. So what was the rationale that the High Court expressed? The High Court gave its rationale at 2:30 p.m. That's when the order was pronounced. The High Court found itself in agreement with the Enforcement Directorate that there was not enough consideration paid by the trial court to the submissions, the avaments, the considerations, the arguments forwarded by the Enforcement Directorate. What the Delhi High Court held is that there was not enough application of mind, that there was not sufficient opportunity granted to the Enforcement Directorate to make its case against the grant of bail, and that forms the basis of this order being perverse and that should be stayed straight away. However, it may not be the end of the road for the Delhi Chief Minister. Bear in mind that on Monday, which is just yesterday, Kejriwal, assisted by his legal team, had moved the top court, whereby they had questioned the stay of this bail order by the High Court on Friday. At the time, the Supreme Court had stayed shy of passing any observations on the merits of the matter, but had said that given as how the Delhi High Court is about to pronounce its order, which is today at 2:30 p.m., the Apex Court saw it fit to post this matter, this challenge issued by Kejriwal, tomorrow. So tomorrow, June 26th, is when the Apex Court will take up this matter, and tomorrow will be critical in terms of deciding the fate of the Delhi Chief Minister on whether he stays locked behind Tihar jail or whether he walks out as a free man.
Okay, Ashwin, thank you so much for getting us all these details. And in a late night development, the CBI arrested Arvind Kejriwal in a corruption case from Tihar jail last night. He's expected to be produced before Delhi's Avenue Court around 10 a.m. today, after which a formal arrest will take place. The CBI then plans to seek his custody in the Delhi excise policy case. And in an important update, Lok Sabha will witness a rare contest for the Speaker's post today between BJP's Om Birla and K. Suresh of Congress after the NDA government and the India group of opposition parties failed to arrive at a consensus. This will be the first time in nearly 50 years that the Speaker will not be elected by consensus. With NDA having a strength of 293 out of 543, Om Birla in all likelihood is set to get a second term as the Lok Sabha Speaker. The Congress party has announced that Rahul Gandhi will be the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha. This will be the first time in 10 years that the Lok Sabha will have a leader of opposition. The Congress had failed to get the required 10% seat in the last two elections for the post. Congress party president Mallikarjun Kharge said Rahul Gandhi will truly represent the aspirations of the people as the leader of the opposition in the lower house of the parliament. Okay, all right. That's all the update on the political news. But for now, we'll take your leave on this edition of Power Breakfast. Stay tuned. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next with all the market action.